Hey everyone, Dominic here, bringing you another Ravening Report. This time we've got game number 4 of Edmonton Onslaught 2019. So after day 1, I came away with a loss, a win, and a big loss. So I'm not sitting too great after the end of day 1. My goal going into day 2 was just try and get as many points as I can and try and get as close to middle tier as possible. My first opponent for the day was Highborn Elves again. We played the counter thrust deployment and captured the flags of the secondary. Let's get into it. So for the High Elves, what they actually ended up doing is just dropping after a few and going for first turn. He deployed heavy to one side. He's got 2 bolt throwers. He's got a unit of Queen's Guard back here with his mage. He's got a unit of, I believe these ones are Sea Guard with his general in there. He's got a unit of Sword Masters back here. He's got a unit of Spears up here. He's got some Ilian Reavers up here. He's got a Prince, I believe, on a Griffin with a Nova Flare. I think he's got a BSB back here, actually, in the Queen's Guard as well. Over here, he has a Sloop and another unit of Reavers. So for Vampire Covenant, I decided to try and go and wrap a flank with all of his shooting. I figure if I put these skeletons out there, he will chew through a lot because he does have Pyromancy as well, I think. Actually, no, it wasn't Pyromancy. It was, I forget what he had for a lore this round, but either way, he had a lot of damaging things that, toughness 3 things don't really like, but I figured I should be able to outlast it a little bit. And if nothing else, put the zombies forward, and it's very few points. So anyway, we have a unit of Barrow Knights over here. Full command with the standard of Zev God. In that unit, I've got my Vampire Count General. He's an independent bloodline, Arcane Knowledge, Blade of True Thirst, Eternity Gem, and Talisman of Shielding. He's a Wizard Master of Occultism as well. Next to that, I have the Screeching Horror, a unit of zombies over here, Banner Musician, a big unit of Skeleton Warriors, Sword and Board, Full Command, Banner of the Relentless Company. In that unit, I've got a Necromancer Adept of Evocation with the Talisman of the Void. I also have a Vampire Courtier, Apprentice of Evocation, with paired weapons, the Touch of Greatness, as well as he's got the Flying Horror upgrade, Independent Bloodline. I've got a unit of 2 Winged Reapers back here, and then I have a unit of Zombies again, Banner Musician, unit of Wraiths, a unit of Great Bats over here, and just on this side I have my Vampire Knights with a Musician. So that's kind of what the table looks like as we go into High Elves turn 1. I think I'm just slowly taking some pictures here. Not sure what I was taking pictures of. Oh, I think when I was deploying, I actually changed my mind with this guy, and that's why I was taking a picture of here. He was one way, and I think I thought of it just before we started turn 1, before I handed off the game to him. Not to get a first turn shot by any of his stuff, so I reformed on the spot just to face the building this way. Yeah, he moves out his vanguards and starts moving up this flank. He repositions stuff, starts to going again. He's going to try and push the flank and shorten up his own flanks. So that's kind of how things are looking like after movement. He does magic. I forget what he was doing here for spells. I think it was the favor is that one. Either shooting or magic. Knocks off a couple wounds on the bats and tries to do some stuff to the knights over here, but nothing happens. He goes into shooting phase and pretty much everything tied into these zombies just to get as many bodies down as possible. Knocks it down to under half And other than that, that's pretty much all it was for his turn 1. So for Vampire Covenant turn 1, I just kind of push. I think he was baiting me out here with these guys. I think he stayed just outside of the max range for this guy. So instead of going up too fast, I'm just going to wait a couple turns and do some other things. We go into Magic. We gain back a bunch of skeletons. I think I did the big version with the Necromancers, so we gained skeletons, zombies, and maybe some zombies. And I think that was pretty much it for Magic, actually. So that's pretty much all I had. High Elves turn 2. Again, he starts pushing up towards the center with the Spear Block, protecting the flank with his Sea Guard, and just sitting back and used his ranged advantage. Moves over here to take the flea charge here if I decide to charge, and he's going to continue shooting with a sloop. Shoots at the zombies again. Does about the same amount of damage this turn as he did last turn. This is either shooting or magic, but knocks these guys down quite a bit. Must have been magic. Does Truth of Time on these guys. And that's pretty much it. He goes into shooting, tries to take some shots over here from the sloop, doesn't do anything, and knocks off a couple wounds from the Sea Guard into the Bat Swarm. This time, the Queen's Guard shoot at the Wraiths, knock off the whole rank, and that's how things are kind of looking as we go into Vampire Covenant turn 2. So to start off here, I was debating this one. The Knights are going to declare a charge into his Prince. My idea here, if I go in and he pops his Nova Flare, at least he'll use it, and that'll save some other things that I don't want him to use it against, and maybe I can do a couple wounds to him to make him think about engaging in other combat. So we declare that charge. They make it in, and over here, didn't take the bait, just move up. I'm going to scream these guys off the planet and carry on. The rest of my stuff, again, I'm just keeping my guys moving towards that center, trying to corner them in that side. We go into Magic. We do Hasten the Hour. We try and knock off a couple wounds here. That one gets stopped. And then we bring back a bunch of zombies. I think I'm actually back to starting at this point. So we do... I think this was Pentagram of Pain. We knocked off a couple wounds on the Reavers back here, tried to cause a panic check, and maybe if they panic, they'll panic another one, but he passed it. We go into shooting. The Horror just screams apart those other Reavers, gets them out of the way, and we go to this one. I did actually do a couple wounds to him. I did fluff a little bit. He did pop the Nova Flare, so I got that one out of the way for I can now charge him. I think I did 2 wounds, 3 wounds actually. I think I did 3 wounds. He got lucky on a save for 1 on a 6-up, and the other one he stopped with the favor, meaning I only got a charge and a wound. And this is, I'm down after crumbles with a guy with 1 wound left. So he got pretty lucky with his rolls. I did not, but I'm still there and holding him up for a turn. So that's what the table looks like as we start turn 3 for Highborn Elves. So over here with that Truth of Time maximized roll, he's going to go for this charge into the flank of that Horror. I think that was pretty much it for charges. They do fail it and they just stumble forward. He brings out his Reavers over here to chaff up the Knights. And the rest of these guys, they continue to move up on this side. This is one that I didn't look at the time, but I probably should have paid attention to, because I don't know if he actually had Arc of Sight with all of these guys. I think he was maybe using Volley Fire and moved, but either way, he moves these guys up. He's going to shoot at the Wraiths again. He completely ignores the bats over here because he figured what a bat's going to do. He goes into, I think this is Magic. He does the Strength 3 hits and knocks off a bunch of skeletons. Like I said, he goes shooting, and he shoots apart the Wraiths. Like I said, I don't think they were actually a target, but who's to say anymore? We go into Magic or combat. He knocks off that last wound over here. I didn't do anything to him. and that's pretty much it. I think there was in Magic, I think he got the Favor off again. Actually, that might have been the only spell I stopped was Favor. But yeah, the Reaver had also put 2 wounds on the Horror in shooting. So that's what the table looks like as we go into turn 3 for Vampire Covenant. So over here, we declare a charge against these Reavers who flee. I did this in the wrong order, actually. I should have continued with this one, but I did this one. Then I went over here. The Winged Reapers declared a charge into his Prince. And the Bats, seeing if I get in there and I do some wounds there, luckily, I should be able to get the overrun and go into this combat. So the Bat goes into the flank. These guys redirect their charge, and this is why I did this in the wrong order. So they redirect into the Swordmasters. I can swing around and come this way. He decides, nope, don't want any part of that. He flees. So he ends up over here. And since I did this in the wrong order, these Bats could have actually declared a charge and maybe just scooped up those Swordmasters and got them out of the way. Either way, Bat makes it in, the Winged Reapers make it in, and then the Knights decide to just go into the Reavers who didn't flee very far. The Shrieking Horror moves up, gets within shooting range of the Sloop, and because of this impassable here, is out of arc of sight of his 2 bolt throwers. So I like that positioning pretty good. And other than that, I continue to just more or less hold the center here with this stuff. I want to see what happens here. I don't want to get too close to those spear guys and let them just wreak havoc in my backfield. So we go into Magic phase. We do Breath of Corruption on the Vampire Courtier here, boost it for the range. It does go off. I actually, looking back after this one, I forgot to use this one too in the shooting phase. It was a really ideal shot because I was within 18 of his Queen's Guard and completely forgot to use this spell. So we also tried to do Pentagram of Pain. He stops this one, and over here we do some shooting. He gets lucky. I only do 3 of the 4 wounds. He passes his panic and he's fine. We go into this combat, and pretty big disappointment. I whiff my attacks. I do 2 wounds, and he only does 1 back to me. So I did win, but he sticks around with a rerollable. I think he's 10, so he's only down 2. Yeah, rerollable 8 is pretty easy to make, which means that these Bats just crumble to all of this. So that's what it's looking like as we go into turn 4 for Highborn Elves. So over here, the Spear guys decide to get rid of these Winged Reapers, as well as his General, who's got the Blazing Spear. He's on this corner. He's going to go on the front as well, just to make sure that everything's gone. The Sloop moves around on the flank, just take some shots. And I didn't take any pictures of the magic, but I think he got Favor off again, and then he does another wound to the Horror. And then he continues shooting. He does a bunch of wounds to the Skeleton unit. And as you see, my Breath of Corruption is still over here. I forgot to use it in my shooting phase. We go into... I guess I didn't take it. We do the combat with the Winged Reapers over here. I didn't manage to get the last wound off on that Griffin Prince. And he wipes me out with Combat Res, turns around to face. Over here, I'm not entirely certain what I was thinking, actually, but I declare this charge into the spears. They make it in, and that's pretty much it. I move up the Horror over here to scream off either his General, who's right here, or that Griffin Prince, who's right behind, and continue moving this unit up for the next turn. So completely ignore that Sloop. I'm gonna try and do a bubble Pentagram of Pain maybe, but maybe not. I might just direct it at them. We go into Magic. We do Breath of Corruption on myself. He lets that go. He didn't quite see what I had in mind there. And we also do a rise, try and tar pit these guys, see what it's worth. Probably not going to work. We did it in a bubble, so we do gain some wounds back on the horror. We go into shooting. We knock off the prince with the horror. And then I actually did Breath of Corruption. I did it against his general here. He does have favor. I was trying to force him to use things. So I did this here. I got really bad roll though. It was like maybe a 4 or something like that. So didn't really do anything. Didn't force him to use anything. But we go into this combat and it goes poorly as expected. I think he wipes him out completely. Maybe not. Yeah, not quite. Down to 4 guys after crumble. And that's what the table looks like as we go into Highborn Elves, turn 5. So he doesn't declare any charges. His sword masters, who had originally fled a long time ago, have made their way back around a little bit. And I think his sky sloop, you can see the shadow, it's actually back here now. Thinking about maybe a rear charge onto those skeletons if possible. Shooting gets rid of the horror. And I think there's some more shooting here from the sloop into the skeletons, knocks off a couple more. And combat gets rid of those zombies, of course. That's pretty much it. We go into Vampire Covenant, turn 5. So we declare this charge into the front of the Queen's Guard, and he elects to flee from that. I redirect the charge into the Sword Masters, and they decide to flee, just really close to the edge of the table over there. The Vampire Courtier also declared a charge against these spears, and he makes it in. So the skeleton block reforms on the spot, moves over here. The Necromancer jumps into this unit of zombies over here so that I'm blocking this essentially. And I'm going to try and gain some guys back. We go into magic. We do the Dead Arise. We put this back here. Brings back a new unit. Like that. And actually, I'm missing a picture here. Oh no, they're there. His general on his turn, he rejoined this unit. That's kind of an important thing for this tactic. My plan here is to maybe see if he takes that bait with that Sea Guard block and goes over here. It would actually put him, he can't charge past, he'll run into the terrain if he tries to get out of complete arc, which will actually bring him closer to my guys if he decides to go for it. If nothing else, then my 6, I'll just get some extra points for that bolt thrower. So we do a rise, we gain skeletons back, and we do Breath of Corruption, which I believe he stops. Yeah, that's kind of what the table looks like. We go into, I believe, combat over here. He did stick around this time, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So he does go for this one. He charges into the flank. Those zombies, makes it in. Both the Sword Masters and the Queen's Guard rally. The sloop moves over a little bit more, and he goes into magic. Can't remember what he did, but I think it might have been a complete bust for him, actually. Shooting, didn't get anything really because he doesn't really have much for targets. I think the sloop maybe fired at the skeletons, and the bolt throwers, I think, tried to take some shots at knights and failed. We go into combat. I beat him this time, and he runs, but I don't catch. Over here, he just wipes out the zombies and pivots on the spot. So that's how things are looking as we go into turn 6 for Vampire Covenant. So I declare that charge with my knights. What I'm seeing here is if I can get that unit to possibly break, not only is that a good chunk of points, but that'll also tie the secondary objective. At this point, I am losing it. He's got 2 units to my 1, I believe. So, and then they make it in. The Vampire Courtier chases off these spears to gain another point for the secondary objective there. Yeah, We go into magic. We do Breath of Corruption. That one goes off. And I think that was pretty much it. We fight this one out. The general knocks off a whole back rank of guys by himself. I direct attacks against his general with that lethal strike and multiple wounds 2 against standard. I was hoping to maybe get some lucky shots, knock his leadership down, get the extra points. I do win that combat. I think he did 2 wounds back to me, but with the Blade of True Thirst, 2 guys just get back up. He does pass his break check, and that's the end of the game right there. So we tally up the points at the end. It's a 16-4 victory after High Elves grabbed the secondary as well. So fun game. Unfortunately, the Knights or the Winged Reapers couldn't break through that first Prince on a Griffin. I think if it could have there, that flank would have been a lot more pressured, and I could have moved up faster, but fun game nonetheless. 1 game left of this tournament. Hope you guys enjoy the battles, and stay tuned for the next one.